everybody, and welcome to the Before the Snap podcast. I am James Christopher, your host, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts. We have Chase Oliver all the way in L.A.
Go, Dodgers, go. No, Lakers. Oh, they got swept. Los Angeles, yay. Clippers. Oh, they lost too. There's nothing happy to be about in Los Angeles. Let's hope for a football team soon.
And then all the way in Virginia, we have Lou Testamark. What's going on the East Coast?
Ain't nothing much, man. Just another day in paradise. Can't wait till the NFL season starts to kick off. We just had mini camps, and now there's really nothing to look forward to in the NFL for about a good 3 months or so.
Absolutely, and I'm here in the Midwest, Tennessee. So we're all over the map, and we're here to do our thing. So why don't we start with Tim Tebow, okay? We don't mean to be like ESPN First Take or any of that junk, but it needs to be discussed, so you're going to hear it here. Tim Tebow released by the New York Jets. Will he find another job? I mean, we're not sure if he will. I mean, it was destined. The minute they drafted Geno Smith, we all knew that Tim Tebow was going to be done there. So any surprise from any of you, or are you surprised, or are you not surprised? And do you think he's ever going to go to another team again, or is this going to be the last we see of Tim Tebow?
Personally, for me, I feel this is going to be one of the last few times we're going to see Tim Tebow. I think Tim Tebow, if we're going to see him again, it's going to be in a New England Patriots jersey, not to replace Tom Brady, but as a tight end. Tim Tebow cannot play quarterback in the NFL. And it's ridiculous that, some of these players, they come into this league and they think they can be something else. Like, why can't players just accept? Maybe that's not their role. I mean, I don't understand what Tebow's fascination is of being a quarterback in the NFL, okay? Like, there's a lot of people that think, like, he's going to go to the CFL, but even CFL teams don't even want him. And if you're not wanted by the CFL, that's a bad thing. That's bad. No one wants you then if you're not wanted. So, really, to be honest here, like, Tim Tebow as a quarterback is done. This kid should not be playing quarterback. His release is terrible. He's not really interesting. The only market that was really interested in him a lot was Jacksonville, and that's because of Florida, the University of Florida. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, Tim Tebow. But even then, no one cares. Tim Tebow is irrelevant. He was just a great Heisman quarterback, and that's it. Just because he won the Heisman Trophy as a sophomore and he was so interesting because he was a Christian, good old boy. I mean, who cares? That's all Tim Tebow is. He's a gimmick. He's a gimmick in the NFL. That's all Tim Tebow is. Everyone's fascinated by him, and really, to be honest, like, his college popularity is not even as big as Johnny Manziel's right now. I think Johnny Manziel is the biggest college football star, and once Johnny Manziel enters the league, and maybe if Johnny Manziel has the same problems as Tim Tebow, he'll be the next Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow's just a gimmick, fair and simple. There's nothing really to care about for Tim Tebow, and if he plays again, it won't be as a quarterback.
I especially feel sorry for Tim Tebow. I mean, it's not his fault. It is completely not Tim Tebow's fault that he is not going to get a job. I mean, if he did not have all the media attention that he has currently, then a team would probably take him just because of his athletic ability. But because the media is just so much on this guy, teams are worried that if they take this guy, fans are going to want him to play, and the media is going to go crazy if he doesn't play, and blah, 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 blah. It's just a headache, and it's an unnecessary headache that no team wants on their team. So, because of that, Tim Tebow's not going to have a job, and it's going to be pretty sad because I like Tim Tebow. Who doesn't like Tim Tebow? He's a good guy. He doesn't want this media attention. It's just put on him, and it really is quite ridiculous. I mean, but I don't see him going anywhere. I mean, Jacksonville, that ship has sailed. I mean, honestly, if I was Jacksonville, I'd take him. But that's because I firmly believe that Blaine Gabbert stinks, and I'm not going to change that opinion until he makes me change that opinion.
Blaine Gabbert change that opinion. He's pretty bad.
Yeah, so, but they're not going to take him. So, honestly, that's it. I mean, unless if New England, like you said, they could. It's going to need to be a really good team where nobody's going to question whether or not he should start. Like New England, like Green Bay. No one's going to say, No, he shouldn't, or he should be starting if he's playing for Green Bay or New England. Nobody's going to make that argument. He can sit back, he can learn how to play quarterback, and no one's going to have a problem then. However, if he's thrusted into a place where the quarterback position becomes questionable, then you will hear the Tim Tebow chants, and then it'll be a massive headache for the front office and the head coach.
Yeah, he just too much problems to me to be in the NFL.
I've went back and forth on this, and I've ranted on this several times on my show. It's ridiculous. I think you really hit the nail on the head, James. This is of no fault of his own. He didn't create this monster. We did. The media did. And so he's a really good guy. He's done nothing wrong. All he wants to do is play football. And the problem is he's an okay player at best at the quarterback position. And so right there in itself lies the problem. People want him to play, but he's not that good. And so I think he should have been given a shot. And I went to hell and back with this one because I've been screaming at the top of my lungs that he should have been playing in New York last year. There was no excuse. Sanchez was a train wreck. They were horrendous. He could have won them football games. That was political in New York, and that's why he didn't play. I'm not going into that anymore. I've been down that road so many times. My face has turned blue. I will say this. There is no way that he gets a job in the National Football League at the quarterback position. The only way that he ends up on anyone's roster at all is if he's willing to switch positions. The quarterback spectrum and chance for Tim Tebow, that ship has gone and it has sailed. If Tim Tebow wants to have a shot in the National Football League, it's going to be as a tight end or an H-back or a fullback or some sort of player out of the backfield or as a tight end. I don't think any team is going to allow him to be a quarterback because of what you said, James. The fact of the matter is, if you put him on your roster and your quarterback has one bad game, the chance of Tim Tebow are going to arise. No one wants that in their locker room. If you're a player, you don't want to answer Tim Tebow questions. You want to talk about your upcoming game against the Cleveland Browns, not about Tim Tebow possibly getting an opportunity to start. It's a distraction that no team wants in their locker room. And it's a shame because, like you said, James, he didn't bring this on himself. He doesn't want any of this extra attention. He's just a guy that goes about his business, and wherever he goes, there's a camera not too far behind. And it's a shame, but that's the way it is. And I don't think he's going to get another job in the National Football League. And it's a shame because, again, I think that he's a football player. He's not a quarterback. He's not a tight end. He's not a fullback. He's a football player. And there should be a spot on your roster for a football player. And that's what Tim Tebow is. But unfortunately, there's a media circus wherever this guy goes, and no team wants that in their locker room.
Well, we can't say it's not Tim Tebow's fault why the media is not following him, okay? Tim Tebow brought it upon himself. We cannot say this is not his fault.
How do you figure he brought it on himself?
It's his values. Everyone is interested in this man because of his values and how nice of a person he is. He's very marketable. Of course you want your media focusing on Tim Tebow.
But this is the thing. It'd be one thing if he brought it on himself and he was going out of his way. This is who he is. It's not like he's changing his identity or he's changing his persona to gain the interest of marketing companies and groups. This is who he is. This is the guy that goes overseas to help.
Yeah, I understand that, but that's what by letting people into your life and telling them and showing them those values and stuff, it causes a problem for Tim Tebow. I mean, he's one of the nicest guys in the world. And when you let a camera come into that life and you let them say, hey, yeah, it's okay, come film me do this. Come see me do this over the summer. It allows openings for people to, wanting to follow you. And that's the thing. Tim Tebow opened the doors to them. I mean,
it's the same thing when these NFL players go over to these military countries and go over to the Middle East and meet with the troops, doing the USO tours and things. They're letting camera crews come with them, but no one's getting all over them and making sure they follow them every second, everywhere they go.
But
it's a story.
when Tim Tebow did this, he did this in college. It wasn't like Tim Tebow was in the NFL for 1 year and people barely knew him, and then all of a sudden, blammo, there you go. Tim Tebow did this in college, like when he was a freshman.
He was a winner in college. That was the problem. He won the Heisman Trophy. He was a winner. And yes, he's a Christian. And he made sure that everyone knew, hey, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And he's going to say that every time he steps to a podium in front of a mic. And so people started to gain interest, and they asked him questions. He answered them honestly. And the story and Tim Tebow, the legend, just grew progressively over time. It wasn't his fault. This was the thing. If this was a persona, if this was an image that he projected to gain fame, then this would be all Tim Tebow's fault, no one else's, because he would be asking for this. He didn't ask for any of this. Now, when they stick a camera in his face, could he decline and say, no, I don't want to talk about this? Sure he can. But he wants to preach and spread the gospel of Christianity, and he wants that message to be heard loud and clear. He's just being himself. It's not his fault that people are gravitating toward him. He's a polarizing figure, and it's not because he wants to be. It's because he just is, and there's nothing that he can do about it.
I just feel by opening the doors and letting them go into that one trip when he was a freshman, not even ready to start yet for Florida. Well, he was going to start in the next year, but when he was a freshman in Florida, letting him see when he was performing like surgery on someone. Do you guys remember that he was performing surgery on someone? Like, how can you not like a guy that does something like that? When you open those type of doors and you let the cameras and you preach that kind of stuff, I know it's not a character or a gimmick. I know that's who he is, but what I'm saying is that's part of the problem. He was the one that is saying that type of stuff.
So are you saying he's too likable, Chase?
Yeah, no, that's the problem. He's just too likable for teams to want to take him. Because think about this. Say if you're a Chicago or a San Diego or a team with a pretty good quarterback right now on your roster, and you know how Jay Cutler has been most of the time in Chicago, whining, pouting, throwing interceptions. Like Phillip Rivers, he's on the decline going backwards in his career. If you're like a team, or let's say, for example, a Baltimore with Joe Flacco in the regular season. Now, we all agree, Joe Flacco, great postseason player. Regular season player, I don't think so. But the thing is, when you look at Jay Cutler, not very likable because he whines and pouts a lot. Phillip Rivers, a lot of people have conflicting issues with Phillip Rivers, especially with him screaming all the time on the field. And then you look at Joe Flacco, who personally is a boring person. And then you have a Tim Tebow back there. Who would you rather have as your quarterback just as a casual fan? I'm not talking about a hardcore football fan standpoint. I'm talking about if you want to get ass into seats and have people pay for your tickets, because let's not forget, the NFL is not only just a sport, but it's a business as well. And you need to get ass in your seats, otherwise no one's going to feature your games on TV. Tim Tebow is just too much of a nice guy, too likable. People want to pay tickets. I mean, when Tim Tebow jerseys are overflowing the arena more than, especially in Denver, more than a Champ Bailey, more than a bunch of other great players on that Denver team, that's a problem. It's just that he's so likable, everyone wants to like him, that it causes a problem for a lot of people. And thus, the way he came off on cameras, always so likable, always so pleasant and nice, it is a part of the problem because he was been like that since college. We've never seen certain players, transform. This is not like Bostic a long time ago for Ohio State going to Seattle. He was always like this from freshman year in Florida all the way to the NFL. This is what Tim Tebow is. We've had at least more than 7 years national coverage of Tim Tebow in our lives. Even when he was a backup at Florida, we've seen so much of him. And that's what I'm saying is that he is kind of part of the problem for opening the doors and saying, hey, come with me to this trip. Because what college athlete do we know? Do we see Johnny Manziel doing this? Do we see Johnny Manziel saying,
Johnny Manziel isn't Tim Tebow.
Hey, follow me to the NBA All-Star game. No,
animal.
Huh?
It's a different animal. Johnny Manziel isn't Tim Tebow. He doesn't have the same values as Tim Tebow. It's a different animal. Everything you just said.
But Johnny Manziel, is he opening the door? Is he telling people, hey, follow me to do this? Because I'm pretty sure at the All-Star game, no one knew Johnny Manziel was there until NBA had to search their cameras to make sure they double take that they saw him in the stands. I mean, it's not like Tim
Yeah.
he brings camera crews with him.
This is the thing. Everything you just said was contradictory to what we just said. You basically made my point, which is he's a nice guy. What it all actually boils down to is the fact that Tim Tebow is a marginal player at best. Had he been a really good player, because like you said, if the NFL is a business, then what you said would make a team want to put him on their roster because he's going to put butts in seats. He's going to sell jerseys. He's going to bring them in revenue. He's a cash cow. So if what you were saying was true, then he would be on a roster. The fact of the matter is he's a marginal player at best at the quarterback position. If he were willing to switch positions, I think this man would make an exceptional tight end or an H-back. But he doesn't want to do that. He wants to play quarterback. It's all he knows. It's all he's ever played since high school. That's what he wants to do. The problem is he's not very good at it. If this guy was a exceptional quarterback, we're not having this discussion. He's on someone's roster starting right now, despite how nice he is, despite all the jersey sales. He's on someone's roster, and he's a franchise quarterback. The problem is this guy is a D quarterback in his league, C+, C- at best. He's a D quarterback. And so he can't be a starting quarterback in this league. At least I don't think he's a starting caliber quarterback. Could he have started for New York last year? Yes, definitely. I think he could have helped that team along much better than Mark Sanchez. But is Tim Tebow a starting caliber quarterback in this league? Probably not. And that's why he's not on the roster right now, because the headache doesn't equal out to the production that you're going to get from him on the field. If he switches position, maybe it makes sense. It's just like T.O. right now, begging for a job. T.O. wants a job in the worst way. The problem is the headache that you get from the T.O. experience isn't worth what it was 6 years ago when you knew you were going to get 80 grabs, 1,200 yards, and 10 touchdowns. You're not getting that out of T.O. anymore, so he's not worth the headache. So no one's listening to him. All of his pleas are falling on deaf ears. Same with Tim Tebow. The value isn't there in making him a player on your roster, and so people aren't willing to put up with the headache.
If you allow me to quickly interject, just real quick. See, my thing is, I mean, both of you guys have been saying the correct thing. I mean, it's just because of his values and all this brings attention to him, but I think the most important thing to me where this debate began is not his fault. I mean, it's not his fault. That's just the person he is.
Doors, though. You wouldn't.
I don't believe it's his fault, Chase. I don't.
It's not his fault. I mean, that's just the way this person is. Sure, maybe he shouldn't pray on the sidelines but I mean, if that's what this person believes,
the doors for people to follow him and see all this stuff. That's where I think is the problem there. That's where I think it started, was just because he opened the doors and let us see so much of him. Like, how can you not like the guy? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's bad for him to do this, but I'm just saying, like, he shouldn't be always doing this, because Lou was trying to bring up NFL players do this. Yes, but we saw Tim Tebow do this in college, and Lou pointed out the fact he was winning in college. That was a good thing. I mean, a nice guy that's winning in college football, especially in the SEC. I mean, that's all I was saying. He did open the door, so you cannot say Tim Tebow did not open the doors. We cannot say this is not 100% not his fault. He has to take some blame from it.
There's definitely some culpability for Tim Tebow, but this 95% of this is not his fault. It's much like Lolo Jones.
Yeah,
do you remember the Olympic hurdler Lolo Jones, who came out and said she was a virgin? That's bringing attention to yourself unnecessarily. Tim Tebow has never done anything like that.
Yeah, I know he hasn't. I'm just saying it is somewhat of his fault for opening the doors, letting ESPN, especially for a college student, and he's not even getting paid for this, letting ESPN follow him for like 24 hours or going on to a trip. Like, he opened the doors for people to see this type of life that he lives. I mean, sure, it's fine, but all I'm saying is we cannot say, no, it's not Tim Tebow's fault. There is some blame to it, because if he never opened those doors, I'm pretty sure Tim Tebow wouldn't be as big as a star as he became in college football. Yeah, he would be known as a winning quarterback. Everyone would fall in love with him. But there's another winning quarterback that's currently on an NFL roster that no one gives two shits about, and he did it with Boise State, Kellen Moore. Remember Kellen Moore? He has the most wins in NCAA history as a quarterback. Only 2 losses.
Kellen Moore isn't a polarizing figure. You just said it yourself. Who gives 2 craps about Kellen Moore. That's why ESPN isn't following.
Tim Tebow
ESPN isn't following Kellen Moore around because no one cares what Kellen Moore is doing for 24 whole hours. It's the same premise. No one cares what Ken Dorsey was doing for 24 hours. He was one of the winningest quarterbacks in college football history at Miami when they were a powerhouse. No one cared what Ken Dorsey was doing. Tim Tebow is a polarizing figure. And so does it matter how you slice it up? There is a small amount of culpability for Tim Tebow, not enough for me to put any of this on him. This is squarely on the shoulders of the media. We blew this guy up into this huge, larger-than-life figure, and now it's costing him in the National Football League because it's making his value plummet.
Let's not forget, Tim Tebow is also the one that's stating out there he does not want to be anything else but a quarterback. And I feel that if we could blame it on Tim Tebow's agent, that would be better because I think that was also an agent plan. I feel a lot of the things that also Tim Tebow has been doing is also because of his agent as well. His agent wants to market Tim Tebow as a quarterback because, what do most of us that watch college football know Tim Tebow as?
I mean, you can say that about anybody. I mean, there's plenty of guys that come into the league and they're told, hey, you need to change positions. And they're like, no, I don't want to change positions. Either I'm a quarterback or I don't want to play anymore. What was the quarterback from Nebraska that came in and the Rams tried to make him a safety? I forget his name. Oh, man. I can't remember his name. But he was a really good college option quarterback, got to the league, and the Rams said, hey, you're a safety. He says, no, I'm a quarterback. They say, no, you're a safety. He says, no, I quit. His name was Eric. It was Eric Crouch.
Good example.
His name was Eric Crouch. There's a lot of quarterbacks that come into the league, and they want to be quarterbacks. And when you tell them you got to switch a position, this is all I've been for the last 15 years of my life. Going back to Pop Warner, I don't want to play any other position. And that's what Tim Tebow was. He was a championship-winning quarterback in high school, a championship-winning quarterback in college, and now you're trying to tell me I can't play it at the next level, and I'm not getting the opportunity? It's not like he came in and failed miserably. The guy went to the playoffs and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now you're trying to tell me I can't start in this league? That's why he can't wrap his brain around the fact that he's not getting an opportunity.
I just feel that Tim Tebow can play other positions and be useful for them. Like, he would make a great back.
I agree with you. I think
he would make a great running back. I mean, I feel Tim Tebow would be great in other positions. I
don't know if he's a running back, but I think he could play other positions and be great. I agree.
I just think that also it's because, like we said, it's a business too. You want to be marketed in. I mean, when you think about it in college and just casual fan things, you don't think agents think about this. Agents want their players to be marketed in a certain way because agents also make money off these players. They want to make money off of these players. So when you're looking at an agent, you want to make sure you also get into those scouts' ears. Hey, my guy's a quarterback also, not just any other position. He's a quarterback, and plus when he's very well known in college football, and plus Tim Tebow. Let's face it, he's not attracting hardcore football fans. Let's face it. If you looked at that draft, if you asked a casual fan, oh, Tim Tebow, he should go number 1 overall, all these hardcore football fans would laugh at you. But through the masses, guaranteed, Tim Tebow is probably the most popular figure in probably in sports right now. You probably have surpassed a lot of popular figures in sports currently, especially with like Lance Armstrong, Tiger Woods. I don't know where LeBron James ranks for any of you guys, but him and LeBron are probably similar in popularity in today's world of sports. And so, especially today's world of sports, not all sports fans are hardcore. Most of them are casual, whatever. I'm going to watch this game just because one of my favorite players are there. I mean, in all honesty here, I just feel that with Tim Tebow, it's just too much of a risk. I just feel that I just don't think we're going to see him play unless it's England Patriots.
James, this is exactly what Tim Tebow does. We just spent 30 minutes talking about Tim Tebow. Let's move on.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so
that's what Tim Tebow does, though. He's a polarizing figure, and we just spent 30 minutes on him. Let's move on.
Now let's move on to something I want to talk about. Something that I want talk about very much, in fact. I mean, this is a guy, go to beforethesnap.com, by the way. This is a guy that I tore up. I mean, I completely ripped him. I completely tore this guy up in the article I wrote on beforethesnap.com. There's another plug for you. Justin Blackmon. Justin Blackmon, or not DUI. What do we know what the drug
substance abuse, and we're assuming it's DUI. It's another alcoholic-related incident.
I mean, what is wrong with this guy? Okay, what is there's something mentally? Mentally, there's something wrong.
Take it away, Jay. Take it away.
There is something mentally wrong with this guy. This guy registered a .24 on the breathalyzer test. Near death, and he's still going near this stuff. Why is he still near this stuff? They need to lock this guy away in some sort of rehabilitation facility, because obviously, if this continues, he will die. Because this is getting ridiculously amazing to me. Kenny Britt, who is known for being such a nuisance off the field, getting in all kinds of trouble, has only been suspended for one game throughout his career. While Justin Blackmon, second year, already suspended for the first 4 games of the season. I mean, what is this guy doing? We still don't know what substance he took. If it's not drinking, I don't know what the hell it is. I mean, I'm really concerned about Justin Blackmon. When you invest a top 5 pick in a guy, you don't want to see this headlining all kinds of websites.
To me personally, I honestly feel wide receiver is the most immature position in the NFL. It's the most immature position in the NFL. These wide receivers today are treated like princesses, okay? They can't be touched. They can't be jammed early. Like, what is this? These guys are being treated like princesses, and they're always so immature. They always do stupid antics. Name one wide. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of wide receivers who are cool-headed, but most of the time they're immature. But it's just so sad, especially what Justin Blackmon did. Justin Blackmon, at the end of the season for the Jaguars, he looked great. I'm honest, he looked really solid. I thought they did a great job with Blackmon. I was like, there you go. This is the Justin Blackmon that we're going to see. I mean, look at Michael Crabtree, how immature he was his first season. I mean, what did he held out to week 12 was it for the 49ers? He didn't even want to play. He was just like, no, give me more money. I mean, that's, to me personally, I just feel wide receivers, sometimes I even argue they should even be considered for top 5 picks because they're always so hit or miss. They're as hit or miss as tackles in the NFL. You don't know what you're going to get out of them. With Justin Blackmon, it's a shame because he is a very talented wide receiver. If anyone's going to tell me he's not, you must need to realign your vision. This guy is very talented. And it's just such a shame that I don't know if he's depressed that he's on the Jaguars, that he needs to drink all this much. I don't know if he's depressed because we always remember the mom story. Him and his mom don't really have a great relationship from what I'm told. But other than that, I don't know what's up with Justin Blackmon. I hope he gets his shit together because I find him a fun player to watch. I honestly feel he could bring some life to this struggling Jacksonville Jaguars organization. I feel he has that playmaking ability, but with all this bullshit that he's doing, how can you consider this man a role model? How can you consider this man even a potential superstar in the NFL? I really think that, Justin Blackmon, he's just one more mishap away before he ends up being a problem case for a lot of teams, and this is only his second year. It's not like this guy has been in the league for 8 years. It's not like he's Terrell Owens or Chad Ochocinco, to name a couple of names. But it's just a shame because he's really talented and someone that I really think that could have done wonderful things for the Jaguars organization and for the NFL in general. I really do.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And like you said, Chase, there are some deeper underlying issues here. Get in the most trouble, there's normally some kind of backstory that everyone doesn't know anything about. You look at Des Bryant, his struggles. He's got trouble with his mom off the field. It's with a lot of these NFL guys, they come from impoverished, backgrounds, and their situations aren't squeaky clean, and so they got a lot of things to overcome. And all of this success at such an early age, being an athlete, I tell you what, it's unlike any other profession in the world because usually it's the other way around. Normally, you get into the workforce and you work hard and you work for a long time, and then you finally get to see the fruits of your labor at the end of the tunnel. And right now, in professional sports, these guys come in, they're 18, they're 19, they're 20 years old, and boom, they're a millionaire. And sometimes it's hard to handle that success. Justin Blackmon had issues at Oklahoma State. He wasn't squeaky clean there either. And so it's a shame, like you said, because he's a very talented receiver. And he hasn't even been in the league 2 years yet, and he's already facing a 4-game suspension. It's unfortunate. He has to get his act together. The one thing that I can say about him right now is that the Jacksonville Jaguars are in his corner. His coach has already come out and said we're behind him 110%. And so he does have the backing of the franchise. But this is a mental problem. This is a Justin Blackmon problem. He has to fix this thing before it gets out of control. It's already spinning out of control to this point because, again, we're not talking about a 6-year veteran. We're talking about a guy who just completed his rookie season, and he's already being suspended 4 games. Like James said, we've seen guys in this league get in more trouble off the field and haven't been suspended 4 games yet. You look at Des Bryant, you look at Kenny Britt. These are guys that are always in the news for getting in trouble, and they haven't been suspended 4 games to this point. And so this is a serious matter. And so Justin Blackmon needs help. Hopefully he gets that help because alcohol abuse isn't a laughing matter. And this guy is going out and driving drunk and doing a whole lot of things that can not only get himself in trouble but can hurt someone else as well. And we've seen that happen with the Jerry Brown situation in Dallas. And so we don't want to go through that again. Hopefully he can get his act together because, again, like you said, Chase, very talented player. I'd hate to see his career be derailed because he can't keep his addiction under control. He needs help. He needs help. Hopefully he gets it.
The thing is also, like, a lot of people don't put into this perspective, is like, why do athletes get paid all this money and all this other stuff? But the thing is, like, most people don't understand. When you get into the workforce, most likely 100%, like 40% of the time, you may actually get a promotion because you're doing a great job automatically. In the NFL and the NBA and all the other sports, just think about this. Throughout all their lives, they've been the best. They've been the best. They've been All-American. They have all these highlights underneath their name. They go to college, they're the best. Then you hit the NFL, you're getting paid $1 million. Okay, that's a lot of money for these young kids, like you said. You know, some of these guys don't even go to the what is it called, the tax foundation meeting that they have. I always forget the name of it. They don't even go to this meeting. They just say, "Oh, I'm getting my contract. I don't need to go to this meeting." But that's the thing. Justin Blackmon, he probably has so much going on because we don't know where he came from. I mean, he probably came from like maybe a big family or a small family. Maybe there's no food on the table when he was younger. We don't know if his mom is like banging on the doorstep every minute saying, "Give us money, Justin. We raised you." You know, there's a lot going through his head. And not only that, you know, especially for, I'm not trying to sound like I'm racist or anything, but for black individuals, especially when they do this, most of the time they don't even live with their parents when they were younger. They probably live with their uncle or their grandpa or their grandma, and they could consider them more as family than their mother and father. And they probably are trying to help them out. And there's a lot of stories that we don't know Justin Blackmon, and for all we know, we could hear Justin Blackmon go bankrupt or something. We don't know yet because with Justin Blackmon, there is personal demons. He needs help, and hopefully he goes to a rehab center like James said earlier. He needs to get this help so that way he can be the star that he is. Because a lot of people say, like they shouldn't be paid millions of dollars. I would like to see you line up with the best NFL wide receiver, see if you can cover him. I would like you try to throw a football field down the field 60 yards. I would like to see you run 80 yards for a touchdown when there's 11 guys in the box. That's what I always tell people. You can't do that stuff. That's why they're getting paid all the money, because they can do this stuff. You can't. And for me personally, just seeing Justin Blackmon, one of my favorite college wide receivers, you know, for the 3 years I saw of him playing at Oklahoma State, I hope he gets better.
And like you said, Chase, it's amazing because he's already in a financially bad spot. I mean, he's seeing financial hardships already. And, again, we're only in his second season in the league. And so And it's amazing how fast these things occur. Des Bryant already in a financial rut, and he hasn't been in the league but 3 or 4 seasons. So, guys, the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary broke. It's a must-watch if you ever want to understand how quickly this money can leave your hands. It's amazing. That is a must-watch for any football or sport fan out there.
Or just people.
It is absolutely a must-watch.
That's a documentary people in general need to watch, because a lot of people don't understand that. Like, a lot of people, when you ask them, what would you do with that $1 million? A lot of people give you these dumbass, as I like to call them, white people reasons that, save it in the bank. No, you're not. If you get $1 million, guaranteed you're spending all that money. I know a lot of people that would say they're saving it up. Most people are not that smart. They would spend all that money. Money is a must in today's economy, and if someone had $1 million, they're buying a new house, a new car, they're buying so much stuff that they can barely contain themselves. So, in all honesty, watch that documentary if anyone wants to know what it's like to live as an athlete in general.
And real quickly, this is kind of off topic, but it has to do with the money thing. I mean, studies have shown if you win the lottery, I mean, these people lose that money. I mean, that's why these guys the government makes so much money off the lottery, because even when you win it, you get rid of it. You get rid of it all. It's gone. Before you know it, it is gone right back in their hands. And I mean, this is just bad news. This is just bad news. And it also doesn't make sense to me from this perspective. I mean, I understand the NFL offseason is very long and tenuous, but you don't see a lot of NBA players getting in trouble like this.
Nope.
I mean, but there's a lot of NFL players that get in so much trouble. It's quite shocking.
And for me personally, I feel the NBA players, a lot of them go through more hardship than the football players. A lot of them, when you look at NBA players, they come from like terrible towns. Compton, Oakland, that's where like New York is like hotbed of NBA talent. And then you go to Michigan. Michigan, it always has high crime rates. I mean, you would think those areas where most of these talented players are coming from are much worse than NFL, where most of these guys are coming from Texas or Florida. Well, I've never been to Florida, so you guys may correct me on this. Or Florida. Some of them do come from California, but I'm from California. I know what squeaky white California is. They come from squeaky white California. They don't come from hardship California. I mean, some of them do come from hardship areas, but I'm just saying, it's like with the NBA, they come from deeper and darker areas compared to the NFL players.
Yeah, it's amazing, too, but you think about it, the NFL is the only sport where your money isn't guaranteed. Yeah, you look at the NBA, you sign a deal for $47 million, you're getting $47 million. You sign a $47 million deal in the NFL, you might only see $17 million of that money. You might only see $6 million of that money, depending on how much of that money is incentive-laden and how much of it is backloaded into the end of the deal. And nothing's guaranteed to you in the NFL. It's a different animal. Baseball is the richest sport. You get paid the most money in baseball. It's a very tough sport to play, but I tell you what, man, it's tough on NFL players. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It's just scary thinking about NFL finances. That's why I would never become an NFL financer.
Man, how about the Jaguars, though? I mean, they can't afford to miss out on Justin Blackmon. And like as Chase said earlier, they're behind this guy for good reason. He's a 5th overall draft pick. You don't want to tell your fans, yeah, we drafted another bust in the first round. Sorry, guys. So they have to be behind this guy.
If you look at Jacksonville's draft history, their best first rounder you could arguably say is Eugene Monroe.
It is Eugene Monroe.
I mean, there's no one else. I'm pretty sure there's probably someone that they drafted it.
No, not really.
After who's tight end again? I always forget his name.
Mercedes Lewis. Who hasn't really ever been as good as you.
He's like their second round pick.
Yeah, he should be a lot better than he is.
Yeah,
I just don't think they utilize him. I think you're right. I think it's Eugene Monroe.
Yeah, because if you just look at it, he is their future. He is their future. I can just imagine watching this 5 years from now when the Jaguars are in the AFC wildcard game and Justin Blackmon makes an incredible catch for a touchdown. I can see that happening, but if he keeps having these problems, we're going to be talking about Justin Blackmon trying to do road to redemption a la Jamarcus Russell.
And I'll tell you something, if Justin Blackmon cannot get his act together, I mean, the Jaguars, without Justin Blackmon, they still have Cecil Shorts, but I mean, that passing game is even more diminished. So, but let's move on. Let's move on. Last thing we want to get on to today: rookie mini camps have come and gone for some teams. Some teams are still waiting to get that done. But biggest interesting thing to me was that a lot of these tackles taken in the first round are going to be playing right tackle. We knew that pretty much when Luke Joeckel was taken by the Jacksonville Jaguars, but now it's being discussed of Eric Fisher playing right tackle. Any thoughts on that?
For me, actually,
go ahead, Chase.
I knew that they were going to be moving to right tackle because Brandon Albert, he's still a solid left tackle. It's not like he's trash. I would still keep that left tackle and then switch him and Fisher off. The thing was, like, Miami, they made a smart move because they knew there was right tackle still on the market, but most of those right tackles returned to their team. But the thing is, it's just that with Jacksonville, yeah, they needed a right tackle, but they could have gotten someone on their market, especially Andre Smith. How much the Bengals signed him for? I'm pretty sure Jacksonville could have signed him much better. The thing is, like, I feel like it's a solid move on those teams' parts to have them as right tackles. I think Luke Joeckel is probably not going to fit well as right tackle. I see him more as just like a stud left tackle. Because the right tackle, you always want the right tackle to be the power tackle. Like Eric Fisher fits what a right tackle is for me personally. Like where he's going to be that guy that's going to block for the running game most of the time. I feel that he can play both. That's why I felt he was a better pick than Joeckel overall. Because I feel Joeckel is just a solid pass protector. And he's really good with those scrambling type quarterbacks. Like he can keep his pass set. Like he has sturdy ass feet. He will just stay there. I just feel as a run blocker, that's not his strength. I just feel as a pass blocker, it works well. But if he's going to stay at right tackle and Brandon Albert, who's still pretty solid as a left tackle, if they just keep Alex Smith steady, then the Chiefs could actually look to a better, not the Chiefs, the Jaguars may look for, he's on the Jaguars. If they have Joeckel and Monroe, the Jaguars are going to have a good pocket circle for Blaine Gabbert to throw in. But other than that, I don't see Luke Joeckel as a right tackle. But then again, I don't know why they drafted Luke Joeckel when they already had Eugene Monroe. But then again, Monroe is under contract, but still, I would sign Monroe in a heartbeat. He's a really great left tackle.
I just think what it boils down to is you play him on the right side, and both of these guys are probably going to experience much of the same thing. You play them on the right side first. You make sure they're as advertised. If they dominate on the right side, you'll probably see the switch to the left tackle position next year. With Fisher, he's going to be there for 1 year. If he's dominant on the right side, keep in mind, Brendan Albert does not have a long-term deal. He's on a franchise tag. So I don't think he's going to be back after this season. I think that the Chiefs have been backed into a corner because their last trading partner was the Dolphins. Dolphins said, hey, Tyson Clabo is out on the market. We're going the cheaper route. We spent a lot of money in the offseason.
Well,
I don't feel like
Clabo's a right tackle, not really a left tackle in the NFL.
No. Clabo was a right tackle. Did I say left?
No. I'm just saying, like, even though Clabo was still on the market, I don't know why they didn't go after Albert, who's a left tackle.
The way they see it is that they're going to take Jonathan Martin and move him to the left side.
Okay.
And they wanted to not invest a lot of money because, look, they spent a lot of money in free agency. Mike Wallace. You look at the linebacker they got from Oakland. They got Ellerbe from the Ravens.
Wheeler.
They spent, exactly, Philip Wheeler. That's what I was trying to think of. They spent a lot of money in free agency. They went out and got Dustin Keller as well. They didn't want to spend too much more money. And if they went out and got Brendan Albert, not only would they have to spend a lot of money, they would have had to give up future draft picks as well. They weren't in love with that idea. So they went the cheaper route, 1 year deal with Tyson Clabo. That gives them the flexibility next year to go back into the market and see what's out there. I think the Dolphins were smart in what they did. It allows them to not have to worry about that. And I think that both Fisher and Joeckel are going to play on the right side this year, much like Tyron Smith did with the Cowboys. Right side in that first season. If you're dominant, we move you to the left side. Both the Chiefs and the Jaguars, however, are hoping that their transitions with their tackles go a lot smoother than it did with Tyron Smith and the Cowboys. He struggled at the left tackle position, did Tyron Smith. These two, they're hoping they dominate on the right side, and then next year they can move them over to the left side. Because no one spends a number 1 or a number 2 overall selection on a right tackle. So you know, somewhere down the line, these guys are going to be on the left side.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be, I thought, though, that Eric Fisher was going to be left tackle. I mean, that's honestly what I thought. I'm not sure that, because they don't know what they're going to do with Brandon Albert. I mean, they moved him, talking about moving to the left, right, guard. I don't know what the hell they think they're going to do with this guy. But I ultimately thought that Eric Fisher was going to play left tackle, but I guess they feel that at this time they would rather play Eric Fisher at right tackle, which is understandable. I mean, I understand it. I'm not completely baffled by it, but I just thought that they were already going to make that move.
Yeah, I think I thought the same thing, James. The issue, though, is they needed to stroke Brendan Albert's ego.
Yeah.
And the only way to get him to come back and not make this thing turn into a circus and have this thing really blow out of proportion was to tell him, hey, you're our left tackle. And they did that, and he's like, okay, I'm coming back. I don't have a deal. I really would like a long-term deal, but since you guys have told me that I'm a left tackle, I'll come back. I'll shut my mouth. I'll play. Everything's fine for right now.
The Chiefs are still trying to make the playoffs. Like, they're still looking to challenge the Broncos to make it out of the AFC West, or even challenge wild card teams. There's a lot of wild card teams in the AFC to challenge for that spot. So they're still trying to challenge for those spots. And if Brandon Albert doesn't come back because they think he's inferior compared to this rookie, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of people in the NFL. It's an ego-centric league. Everyone on a team has egos. Whether you like it or not, that's how it is. And a lot of people feel like, look at Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush, remember, when the Saints drafted Mark Ingram, what did Reggie Bush do right away? He said, looks like I'm gone. He just tweeted that. He just said, looks like I'm gone. I mean, you don't want someone to be drafted for your position because you may feel like, that's hurting my feelings. You're hurting my feelings. I've served here for how many years, and you're saying I'm not good enough here? And, you know, they don't want to do, like the whole Tim Tebow situation. He wants to be a quarterback. Brandon Albert wants to be a left tackle. He's fine as a left tackle. I don't think he's terrible. He's not the greatest left tackle, but he's fine as a left tackle. But when it comes down to it, the Chiefs are still challenging for a wild card spot, and they can't afford to hurt a valuable asset to their offensive line that they have right now just because they got a rookie. So I understand why Albert didn't move. I understand why Jokel's not moving. I would tell Jokel, yeah, you're going to play right side until we can't ink Eugene Monroe to a long-term deal. Then you can move to left side. But when it comes down to Fisher, I would say, yeah, we're going to keep you here until Brandon Albert disappears.
Yeah, very interesting stuff.
All right, well, we want to quickly recap our weekly poll. We're doing that weekly podcast now. So, our poll last week, which was the biggest surprise of the draft, the biggest reach of the draft? And, well, not really surprising, 63% of you said E.J. Manuel was the biggest shocker. 18% Travis Frederick. So E.J. Manuel wins this poll for the biggest reach and shock.
Travis Frederick got screwed. This is messed up. What do you?
However, now for this week, it's the topic of this podcast. Should a team take a chance on Tim Tebow? Yes, no. It's going to be very simple. We want to see what you have to say, so head on over to beforethesnap.com. Vote on the weekly poll. Weekly polls are updated every Monday.
I want to know how.
Well, thank you all. Actually, every Tuesday. But thank you all for checking out the podcast. For all of us here, come back next week. Check out our Facebook, facebook.com/beforethesnap. Check out our Twitter, twitter.com/beforethesnap, beforethesnap.com, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. You're already here, so just click subscribe down there in the description box. For all of us here, we'll see you all next week. Peace.
How did Travis Frederick did not win that poll?